the taxi cab stuff comes out, I go to him and I say, Andy, does this make sense to you? Because all these people...
We're working on one right now where they're trying to take away the home rule from Peekskill and have the county TLC license to taxi, and they can't even monitor their own
I know,
cab.
but we're backing down from that. As you know, as long as you have the same standards,
right,
your license is as good as ours.
And Peekskills are tougher than even the TLC.
Right, right. But that's the lack of common sense that sometimes prevails in government. It's terrible.
I know. Now, because we're monopolizing all this, and Dominic's not in Florida having Mai Tai. Yeah. You don't watch all the time, but when Dominic can't make the show, I tell everybody he's having Mai Tais in Florida.
I don't even know what a Mai Tai is, but
it's an alcoholic.
Well, I know that. I don't know what's in it.
Neither do I.
I'm a beer and bourbon guy.
I haven't been behind the bar in 20 years. Okay. But anyway, I know Dominic wants to talk about the Tappan Zee Bridge because people come in his store. And there's stuff going on with that now.
You got customers coming from Rockland?
So what's going on with the Tappan Zee Bridge?
Come on, you got more than that.
Everybody crossing the Bear Mountain Bridge says, we're not going to Tappan Zee. We're staying on the Bear Mountain Bridge.
The Tappan Zee Bridge, I'm here to talk about Rob Astorino. Very early in 2010.
Tappan Zee affects Westchester.
But let me just... No, I'm going to tell you, though. But when he first took office in 2010, that's before Cuomo was governor, he pointed out the need for that bridge to be repaired, and he heightened the attention that needed to be done. So he, I think rightfully so, takes some credit for moving this governor to get that Tappan Zee Bridge. It has to be replaced. Number two, he held out the little bit of approvals that he had in the system until it had some sort of mass transit component on the design of the bridge, and they got that. The third thing he hasn't been as successful on is, okay, please, Governor, tell us exactly how this is going to be paid for. If it's going to be tolls, and it probably is, what is that toll going to be? And again, we have this smoke and mirrors thing where they try to borrow money from a clean water fund, and the EPA, and if you want to put politics, the EPA is controlled by a Democratic administration. Governor Cuomo's a Democrat. You'd think they'd maybe be a little more lenient. They said this is silly. You can't take clean water money that's meant to keep your rivers and streams clean and use it to build a bridge.
Whoa.
And then he says, well, we really didn't need that money. We weren't really financing with that. And then he says, well, we can't tell you how much it's going to cost till it's built. But you have to have estimates.
Well, wait a second. You were in county government for a lot of years. County bonds. I
still am as far as I know.
No, but you know what, as a legislator.
Yes.
County government deals with bonding.
Correct.
So that means you have to have an estimate.
Absolutely.
Of what you're building. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
So
yes.
So Cuomo is actually being disingenuous, saying we're not going to know until it's like the Obamacare. We're not going to know what's in it till we pass it.
Somebody won a bid, right?
Right.
So there's dollar amounts somewhere there of what it's going to cost to do certain things. So the question is, are you going to spend, is the Thruway Authority going to do it? Are the tolls going to do it? Is there money coming from Washington? So far, it doesn't look like much. There's a loan coming from Washington, but nothing permanent. One of the things that Rob Astorino has suggested, the state's going to get about a $5 billion windfall from this.
$4.8 billion.
Yeah, on this
we talked about
pharmaceutical thing. And Rob Astorino thinks, you shouldn't use that as a one-time thing to plug a budget. Use it for infrastructure, long-term things, and he thinks that part of that money should go
towards
the constructing.
Ron Castelli on the show talk about that butt thing.
Yeah.
And he says, well, you don't use it for recurring expenses.
Right.
You use it for
something. Right. And so that would be a great mechanism to fund it. And look, undoubtedly, I believe the tolls are going to have to go up to pay for it. And,
well, that's
Well, but I don't know if you've been.
Yeah, but
I have a daughter
I
have a daughter in Brooklyn, and she sometimes visits a friend in Staten Island. I think the Verrazano Bridge is like $16 one way.
It's but understand the reason why the
it's
tolls.
16 because you pay just the once.
Oh, okay, so it's $8.
But still, but the reason why the tolls are the way they are is because the New York State government takes from the dedicated funds.
Correct.
That are supposed to maintain the roads, because you can't tell me that we should be borrowing money with all the toll money collected, because they did that with the new MTA tax. How many times in this state budget have they pulled out of the new dedicated tax, even though there are other dedicated taxes for MTA, to plug their own budget gap?
Right.
I think the last bill was $250 million. They pulled out of that dedicated MTA, but I think it's almost $100 million so far they pulled out of it since that dedicated tax passed.
Other than him blocking the bridge, Governor Christie in New Jersey, which was a wrong thing
Right.
to do. But New Jersey has a low gasoline tax. New York has a higher gasoline tax. I grew up in New Jersey. I drive through New Jersey a lot. The roads are better there than in New York, I got to say.
Because, like I said, they're taking the money that's supposed to go there, and it's on your phone bill, your cell phone bill, your cable bill, your electric bill.
Yeah.
What's the number you're hearing right now for the Tappan Zee Bridge?
The total cost to build
Total
it is
cost.
around $4 billion, is what they're
$4
saying.
billion.
Right.
Well, fine. So if you're going to get a one shot of almost $5 billion, and you can't dedicate at least 3/4 of that,
Well, even just half,
Even
$2 billion.
half, yeah.
Right.
$2 billion, and cut the cost down to, it's a $2 billion bridge.
and that would eliminate a big pressure on the tolls.
Correct.
For the consumers, the commuters, because not just Westchester, like I said, the bridge is a Westchester,
Right.
but it's also a Rockland issue.
Right.
And you got 2 Republican county executives fighting a Democrat governor that won't tell the people what he's spending money on. In fact, according to the papers, the Sunday's Post, that Cuomo put out a press release congratulating 2 state agencies he controls for approving the budget loans 10 days before they even voted on it. And now he's being investigated again. Another investigation besides the Moreland. How do you do this? Those were independent agencies. How do you say they passed that when they haven't voted yet?
Well, one thing with this governor is he actually thinks he's an emperor or a king. He really does.
Well,
think
what
that,
was his line? People that don't agree with him, there's no room for New York. In New York for
That's
him.
correct.
I've brought this up many times.
He appointed a corruption commission, the Moreland Commission you talked about, and said they can investigate anyone, including me. And the minute they got a little too close, he dismissed them and said, well, they're my commission, so I can dismiss them. I'm not so sure they're his commission because he made them take oaths of office.
I always said that the Attorney General deputized them.
Absolutely.
So they now became an arm of the law.
That is correct.
So it wasn't, and besides, it was our commission because we paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
honestly.
I mean, what's he going to do next? Dissolve the state legislature?
But and like I said, we all live here in New York, and Dominic the same thing. The Attorney General deputizes these people. Cuomo disbands them. He says not one word won. So you got to say, okay, why is the Attorney General being political? His job is to uphold the law for everybody. But and apparently, I know your boss has been outspoken on that part, but everybody else seems to be very quiet on this part. Because
I can't answer to that.
No, when you tell people, well, they were deputized, I didn't know that.
Right. Well, most people don't know that.
And that was your point.
And they have certain, and by doing that, they had power of subpoena.
Right.
That certain powers and authority. And I think once that is, it's one thing for him to put together a committee or a task force. I mean, we do this at county government. We put together certain experts in a field and say, okay, take a year and study this issue, and at the end we dissolve you. That's a little different than having people that have subpoena power, that have certain powers.
This was not just a normal Moreland commission.
Well,
it wasn't like these people were deputized.
It's a creature of the law. It's not a creature of me appointing a little committee.
Right.
That's the difference.
And Dominic is, and I'm going to go back to this because George hasn't been part of this conversation. Dominic believes, I said that there's no way these numbers are right, these polling numbers, that with the 30-point difference. I says you got 13 empty legislative districts. They can't be saying, yeah, give me 4 more years of this. Maybe they are. I don't know. But Dominic says I'm wrong because tell them what people in the store say to you about this.
As they were coming in, they were like, they really didn't care. About the Moreland Commission.
Right.
It didn't faze them. They were like, we don't care. Yeah, we hear about it and could care less. 2 days later, the poll came out.
And he was right. People, 60% said, well, okay, as long as...
Well, I think people become desensitized to it. We've had so much corruption. I mean, we had Elliot Spitzer resign.
Yeah.
We had Patterson not run again because he was under a cloud. As you said, there's 13 state legislators that had to leave. I mean, we had our own state senator here and be disgraced and have to leave. So I think at some point, you're right. People just I guess this is the nature of the beast,
But I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked other guests on the show. Can you and you've been in politics longer than most of the ones that I know. Can you corrupt an honest man?
I don't think so, no.
So I mean, nobody in all the years you were, nobody accused you of underhanded deals.
Oh yeah, I was accused of a lot of things, but
not that.
I don't think I've ever been accused
No,
of,
yeah, that
of taking graft or of. No,
That's
I've
what
been
I'm saying.
accused of being
You would know this.
ill-informed, misguided, bad judgment.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what these guys are resigning for.
Yeah, yeah.
Westchester government's been pretty good about this in the years that I've been writing. That
Yeah,
you haven't
we
had
have
that
not.
kind of taint. You got a lot of other taints, but that's all difference of opinions and politics.
No, you're right. I don't know of any of my colleagues in the legislature all those years that ever was even under investigation.
That's
let
what
alone,
I'm saying.
You know,
So we got kind of spoiled here.
Yeah.
It's when you get up to the higher in the food chain.
I think part of it, just so you know, Rob Astorino, and I encourage anybody that's watching to go to his website. He's got
What is his website?
robastorino.com. You can put it in
Okay,
there.
I
Or you
know
can put
that.
Astorino for governor, Google that. He's got a whole big platform on ethics. One of the things is term limits. The other one is that there's got to be more disclosure. The other thing is, I don't know if people know this, but in New York State, you can basically use your campaign contributions for anything. People running for office use it for cars.
Well,
They
Greg
use it-
bought his staff clothes.
You buy clothes. He wants to tighten
I'm
that
nice
up.
about that,
No,
by the way. I'm
but
being nice
Rob
about it.
wants to tighten that up. That it can only be used for purely political purposes, like me sending out a newsletter or buying a TV
But
ad or
something
hiring
very
a consultant.
important, he also doesn't believe that if you're convicted of these crimes,
You should get a pension. That's correct.
right.
That's another one.
Now you just also the per diem, and this just hit the news today. Yep. The Queen's
They got a guy.
Senate,
Yep.
and he's been under watch for a long time. They finally made the the indictment for playing with the per diem. Because he always had the highest per diem is when you get paid to go to Albany back and
It's
forth.
you get paid extra to do your job.
Right.
It would be as if you automatically got an extra tip from every customer, and you too, Dominic.
Right.
You're already getting something for your service.
I always told him when he ran for office they had a 50-cent charge for campaign.
No, I mean it's amazing in Albany because you get paid for your job. And listen, they don't make a lot. They make 80, 90,000. Of course, then they get these little stipends if you're the chairman of this or that or that.
Well, compared to his
But-
money, that's not a lot. Compared to mine,
yeah,
that's
to
a
yours
lot.
it is. I can't even say it to mine anymore. And then when you get you go to Albany and show up for work, you get money for being there to have lunch, dinner, and accommodations. It's ridiculous.
Now, this is what, because you brought this up about his plan on ethics.
Right. He has one on education for jobs, got a whole bunch of them.
One of the biggest things I get, that's why I don't believe the papers. I said from the beginning, you'll never get a true story of Astorino out there. So I don't believe the poll numbers. You can't tell me he's got a 30-point lead with the southern tier dying of hunger.
I'm going to tell you something right now.
But-
if he had a 30-point lead, would he be running the kind of campaign he is, where he's
Well,
going after Rob?
you both have been in office,
Okay,
and
so-
how many times do you don't go after anybody
If you got that kind of
that
lead,
they're
you
not
don't.
that's not a threat to you.
Right.
You don't do this. But every time I read these columnists trying to be balanced, they say, but what's Astorino going to do? He never says what he's going to do. He only complains about poll quote. And I did a column on this, and the paper gives me the space. We reprinted Cuomo's entire
All right.
corruption.
And on that note, George, thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Dominic. It was fascinating. I gotta come back after election when he's governor. We'll talk about what he's going to do.
The 30 minutes actually goes
It did
very
does go
fast.
fast. I had a good time. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you came. I'm glad we got this out. But he put out what he would do with school reform.
Correct.
He just put out his business reform, the entire platform. Yet you hear these, like Hammond, who's supposed to be the fair and balanced guy. Well, what's he going to do about it? Well, then read the goddamn.
And look, all they got to do is look at what he did for this county in 4 years. And that alone should give him the
I
potential
just,
You know, we had Castelli here a month ago,
yeah, the last taping.
and the one thing he did say, and it caught me by surprise, he said that I think out of the state senate and the assemblymen, not one really came out in support of Astorino. Why? Are they afraid of Cuomo that much?
Part of it.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Then what good are they too?
So-
Who needs people that are gelded?
Did Rob really have good back?